sail the waters, soar above the trees, to find the gem between the mountains and seas. Your children know we try though we may fall. We stand united now to heed your call. Our fathers fought the fights for liberty. Forever out the land, Guyana free. Guyana, Guyana, I'll be holding on to you forevermore. Guyana, Guyana, may the blessings of God never leave your shore. Guyana, Guyana, I'll be holding on to you forevermore. Guyana, Guyana, may the blessings of God never leave your shore. Rise up for your land. Rise up, won't everybody stand? Rise up for your land. Rise up, won't everybody take a stand? Rise up for your land. Rise up, won't everybody stand? Rise up for your land. I'll be holding on to you forever. I'll be holding on to you, Guyana. May the blessings of God never leave your shore. Guyana, I'll be holding on to you forever. Guyana, may the blessings of God never leave your shore.
Look down from your window, no big city lights, just greenery. I don't know what you come for. Listen up, my dear, we're such a man free. Welcome to the land of many faces, not one, not two, but 6 different races. You know when the sun kisses your skin, you're in the right place. G-U-I-A-N-N, oh, that's my beautiful country. One people, one nation, one destiny.
And here goes, I represent for 99.1 Kaicho Radio, the radio with a difference.
14 hours 27 in Guyana and right across the Eastern Caribbean. It is time for us to join Leonard Gildarie and Dr. Yog Mahadeo for today's edition of the COVID-19 and Elections Watch. You're listening to us right here on Kaicho Radio, the radio with a difference. Without any further delay, gentlemen, a pleasant good afternoon to you. There's lots to discuss this afternoon, and over to you.
Thank you very much, dear Joshua Van Slytman. Good afternoon, right across this beautiful land of ours to all you who've been joining us, and of course, overseas, wherever you are. Let's get right down to it. I want to say welcome, good afternoon to you, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, very well. We are seeing all the delays and the delays and delays happening in this country. But other than that, life goes on and we have to be well, don't we?
Absolutely. So let us get right into it. Everybody wants to know what is happening with elections 2020. There was just that hearing at the appeals court in Kingston, and it has been ruled, or rather, a decision has been taken for all the parties to submit their responses in time for arguments or substantive case tomorrow at 11. In a very short while, we're going to be joined by attorney at law Kamal Ramkarran, and he is going to give us his take on the entire situation. But as of now, what we're having here, Yog, is the bottom line is that you're not going to have a declaration between now and tomorrow 11. That's because the case is at 11, and then the court has made it very, very clear that it will announce at that point in time after the case is heard when it will announce a decision. So we're heading into the weekend. Mr. Ramkarran would have said it last night. He called it, and like yourself has called it, that this ain't going to be over today. So Yog, in the meantime, I want to get right over to you. What is it, what have transpired in court today, the impact of that on declarations 2020 and what is likely to happen, timelines. Over to you, Yog.
Thank you, Leonard. And yes, indeed, Mr. Ramkarran has decided to join us. And he will be here in a couple of minutes, as you rightly said. What this means, Leonard, is that the waiting game continues. What it means is that, you know, some people are going to continue in office. I was very glad to see the Kaiser News headlines today that some people have packed up. You and I, we hinted this yesterday, and we shared that we heard that some ministers were packing up and clearing out. It's time they pack up and clear out indeed. They should have done so a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. But it is what it is. To summarize, though, today was merely procedural. It basically lines up everybody to present their case or present their arguments. And I think they have up to midnight, some of them, to respond and things like that. But Kamal will be in a better position to give us all the update, and I think it's any moment now. But Leonard, ultimately, the bottom line is that another day is going by without a government of Guyana.
Well, one of the things that I was a little heartened with to the Yog, and we're going to come about to that wasting of time, it has been something that you and I have been talking about, how every day that ticks by is another day wasted, that we should be paying attention, focusing on something that is going to lead to the development of this country. What I would want to say to you that I was heartened today to hear the court acknowledging, recognizing that time is of essence, and therefore they have given strict deadlines to the parties that are involved in this case here to hand in their documents. So Yog, that's one very good thing, and I think there has been expressions of frustration. They are continuing. My inboxes is filled with it. Political parties, even diplomats, are a little upset by what is happening. Maybe someday we could probably have a discussion on that. But what we do know is that tomorrow 11, for that continuation of the case, they're supposed to have the arguments back and forth, clarifications during that case at the Court of Appeal in Kingston there. And then the court is going to make the announcement as to when the decision. We expect if we keep in line with what the High Court would have done when they had that big case they worked through. I think it was the Pagwa weekend, I think it was. And they were immediately, there were some decisions to render decision within hours. And that was very, we know that that decision was one of the groundbreaking ones by a judge. So let us see whether, in keeping with that, I rather suspect that the entire court is aware, because people are watching them very carefully, as to whether they understand how important this case is. The entire country awaits, the entire world is watching, and they should have a very clear idea that we have no mood for delays. There will be attempts to delays. There were even applications today for those arguments or responses from the parties in response to the case that was filed to have some more time, but the judge is making it very clear that tomorrow 6 o'clock, I think, is the latest. 6 a.m. in the morning is the latest that you could submit your stuff online. So in a very short while, when we have Counsel Kamal Ramkarran, he is going to shed some light. But I think one of the things that the people should know is that Bar Jagdeo and Irfan Ali has been included in this case here as respondents, and they went through the procedures today to name the persons who are going to represent the different parties. I think significantly enough, I heard, and the audio was bad, Yog. We come to that in a short while. We heard that at least one small party, TCI, is going to be represented, and these are very, very good things. They are being named as respondents. But Yog, one of the things that really had me upset, and we could probably have a discussion on this a little later, is the fact that we have spent so much money in a day like today, when COVID-19 has made it clear to us that it's not business as usual in the normal way, but rather we have to do things differently. Guyana is subjected to somebody streaming. The stream was given, I think, to Prime News, and then they shared it with the other media houses. It was very poor. You could barely hear what is happening. And I think they were doing it a lot. I think they were doing it via Zoom too. There's some people present there, but we're going to hear some more details to that. But the quality was really, really poor. But over to you, Yog.
The quality of the feed is an embarrassment to this country, Leonard.
Absolutely, not on a day like today.
Yeah, and I have said, you and I have agonized over this many days. The quality of the feed coming out from a court at this stage, at this juncture, speaks to lack of preparation, lack of technical capabilities and everything. And these people are being paid, millions of taxpayers' dollars to do this kind of crappy work. This is why we need a change. This is why things have to change. We cannot continue like this. Sorry to carry on, but that made a lot of people angry.
Yes.
You remember during the recount process, the feeds were going up and down too. They had the exclusive. They had the only feed, yet they had the pleasure of doing what they wanted with it. And, it just speaks to people having their priorities all upside down.
Absolutely. So we're joined by attorney at law here, Kamal Ramkarran. And before I hand over to you, Yog, I must make this comment in response to that. This thing is so easy. As long as you have internet here, Yog, you could be able to use Zoom. You could be able to send it different ways. So, Yog, we'd have to continue to pay attention to what is happening. But over to you and Mr. Ramkarran.
Thank you. And Mr. Ramkarran, welcome once again. I know we had you late last night, and we have imposed on your kindness to be here again today. But this, as you know, this is hallmark. This is very important. So thank you for coming in. Leonard, we basically spoke to Mr. You and I would have sent him a message, like 2-3 minutes ago. And so he has really been on the spot. I know you have your full day caught up for you, sir. So on behalf of every one of our viewers and listeners, thank you for coming on. Over to you, Mr. Ramkarran, to tell us what we need to know, what has happened and what's on for tonight and what's on for tomorrow. We heard things got to be submitted midnight. We heard 6 a.m. You translate it all for us, sir.
Well, thanks for having me, Yog and Leonard.
Thank you.
It sounds a bit confusing, but all that has happened is the timelines have been set. What is going to happen tomorrow at 11 o'clock? The parties are going to reconvene, or is going to hear arguments from them at 11. So let's get to what will happen by 11. By 4 o'clock this afternoon, all of the parties who want to can file affidavits. Those affidavits set out the facts. Whatever facts they want to rely on will be set out in those affidavits, which are to be filed by 4 p.m. this afternoon. And I believe that all filing is being done electronically, filing and serving. So you will just scan and upload a PDF copy of a document, and you will email it to the other parties. The Attorney General, Mr. Basil Williams, Senior Counsel, said that he can put his submissions will be ready by 2 p.m. So the court asked him to file his submissions by 2 p.m. and again he does it, files and serves electronically. Everyone else has to file their submissions by 4 p.m. I believe that the applicant, the person who took the case to court, has already put in submissions. So people have seen, the other parties have seen what she has said. So everyone else has to file their submissions by 4. Mr. Mendez, Senior Counsel, who appears for the People's Progressive Party, asked to respond to whatever arguments, when I say submissions, I mean legal arguments. Mr. Mendez, Senior Counsel, asked to respond to whatever arguments the Attorney General puts in, because he believes that the Attorney General will be on the same side as the applicant. He will have the same case and will not agree with Mr. Mendez's case. So he has been given up until midnight tonight to put those arguments in, although he said that he will do them by 10 o'clock tonight. So submissions in reply are going to come in from the applicant, the person who brought the case, who is represented by Trinidadian Senior Counsel as well, John Jeremy Senior Counsel, who was once the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. Those submissions will come in from Mr. Jeremy by 7 in the morning tomorrow, and the court will reconvene for oral arguments as we had today, or an oral hearing at 11 tomorrow morning. The parties have been asked to speak for no more than half an hour each in those arguments. At the end of it, the court will say, okay, well, we're going to decide the case on so and so time. The next day, the day after, or sometime like that. So that makes me a rundown of what happened today.
Correct. Thank you for that, Kamal. And Leonard, if I may, Kamal, here is what's bothering me. I have noticed since yesterday, that the AG is one of the respondents in this matter, and you brought it out nicely there. Because my concern, Leonard, was why is the AG a respondent here? And it's obvious that the Attorney General, well, I should say Mr. Basil Williams, in the position of AG, is going to take the side of the applicant. He is not going to appear there to defend, but he's probably going to take the side of the applicant. And that will be a shame, because, Kamal, would the AG, in taking the side of the applicant, I shouldn't be asking Kamal this, he's a lawyer, Leonard, here's my question. Would the AG, taking the side of the applicant, still be taking that side, earning taxpayers' money? In other words, he is taking a position, a salaried employee of the taxpayers of this country, going against the will of the same taxpayers who voted.
Well, let me answer it this way, and this is Gildarie answering now. This country, we've seen the respect for the law, the respect for ethics, and a whole bunch of other stuff, questions over that. We take it as a joke, and I say no further than that.
So, Kamal, is it a conflict of interest?
Well, Yog, I can answer you in this way. The Attorney General, what the Attorney General does is that any Attorney General, always answers any case concerning the Constitution. The Attorney General is the representative of the state, and we expect that the Attorney General would take a position which is an objective position. This morning, I was reading a case from the 1970s. It's an application by UC Quayana, where the same Article 177, 4 or 5, I think it's 4, of the Constitution was raised in the Court of Appeal. The same sort of case was brought. It was 1980. And when Mr. Burnham was sworn in as president in 1980, and the Attorney General was Dr. Shahabuddin. And Dr. Shahabuddin, the court's judgment says, since Mr. Quayana was unrepresented, Dr. Shahabuddin put forward the case that Mr. Quayana would have put forward had he had counsel, and then proceeded to answer that case. So that's what Dr. Shahabuddin did. He put forward Quayana's case, and then he said this is what Quayana's case would have been if he had a lawyer, and then he answered it and said, well, it's not a meritorious case because this is the answer. So that is what the Attorney General in a country in a constitutional case should be doing. Something like that.
So the final question on that same stead here. Kamal, the sad fact is that Basil Williams, within the last 48 hours or 72 hours, he wrote an op-ed in the Guyana Rag, giving his opinion about how such matters should be handled. So he is clearly advertising his position on this matter, not necessarily one that adheres to Guyana's constitution, but he clearly would have adumbrated all of his biases in that op-ed. So his submission is clear.
Well, because the court has not spent any time allowing other people to come in, people who believe that their interests are affected. The court has not spent any time preventing them from coming in. So there will be a wide variety of legal arguments to answer any. So it is not just the Attorney General and the applicant in the case. There are many other parties in the case who will put forward different points of view. The court will have a good balance of submissions. If that were not so, then perhaps the situation would have been different.
So,
Correct.
Counsel, I want to ask. Go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, I want to ask you this. Do you have the impression that the court is recognizing the importance of this case here, and therefore would have set those timelines? Do you have that impression?
I think so. I think so, because these are very, very short timelines. These are not extended timelines. The court has taken no steps that would cause delay. The court dealt with the matters. It didn't allow anybody to detain it in any way, and the timelines that were set were very short. Tomorrow, Saturday morning at 11 is not a long time from now. And any court anywhere in the world would not have gone. I don't think it, maybe this afternoon, but that would have been pushing it, because the court is also not shutting out anybody from saying what they want to say. The court has given them reasonable but short timelines to put in their arguments, and has said, okay, we come tomorrow at 11. So everybody has a nice bit of time so that they don't feel too pressured, but it's still a short time. So I think that the court has recognized the urgency of the matter and is acting with that urgency in mind.
You're right, Kamal. And I think also in recognizing the urgency of the matter, the court also stands out as having allowed. I heard Change Guyana says they want to be represented. I heard TCI, so the court has come out on the side of, being open to allow everybody to make their presentations. So
there was no hesitation, if you notice. There was no sort of hesitation in saying, okay, well, we have to consider, let us see what you have to say, and so on. Immediately they were allowed.
Great. Well, I must say this in passing, Kamal. I must say this, Yoga's going to come with something here. I hope the legal profession can continue to handle all matters with the same alacrity, Don't let a case go on for months, but I had to throw that at you, don't worry.
It's the most important case in the country, so.
Yeah.
But Yog, I want to ask you, Yog, because you're asking a lot of questions. Let me ask you this, and maybe Kamal could probably step in if he feels that he could answer. What should the opposition parties, which would have witnessed the rulings of the Court of Appeal with regards to that case with the 33, should they feel a little happy that the same judges are going to be sitting again? I hear silence in the room.
That question you directed to Yog, not to me.
Yes, that's why I said I'm going to ask Yog.
I was looking at Kamal to see if he is going to make a move toward his mic. But, Leonard, I would want to turn the question the following way. Kamal, is the Chancellor part of the team listening to this case?
No, the Chancellor is not in the panel. The lead judge, the president of the court, was Justice Don Gregory. I would answer Leonard's question like this. Sometimes judges make mistakes. If all judges were right 100% of the time, there would never be any need for appeal courts. The judges make mistakes. The system recognizes that judges make mistakes, and the system has appeals built into it. The fact that a judge makes a mistake sometimes doesn't mean that a judge is biased against a party or has a certain political view. It could simply be an impression of the law which turned out later not to be the correct impression of the law. So I wouldn't be too hard on any judge for coming to a wrong decision sometimes.
Perfectly put. Would Kamal one day aim to become a judge, or you want to remain in as a trial lawyer? You don't have to answer that, Counselor.
but you can answer this. I can ask him this. For the people who are looking on, let's assume tomorrow is the case, the substantive case in itself. Let's say that the court rules on Sunday. I'm just giving some timelines here. I think the people should be aware that there is a possibility that that case, that decisions the decisions could be appealed at the Caribbean Court of Justice. There's that opening because we in uncharted waters here. I think there's that room for that, because I think you rightfully pointed out, Counsel, I think last evening, that when the laws were written, we did not have the Caribbean Court of Justice at that point in time. Now you have an appeals court in the form of the Caribbean Court of Justice. I'm using layman's language here. There's that door that's open there. I want to throw that out in here, probably some responses.
Mm-hmm.
As to whether it will be further delayed if there is an appeal taken to the
Yes.
Caribbean Court of Justice. Well, yes, but the Caribbean Court of Justice would be expected to deal with it very, very quickly in the same sort of way. Now, whichever side loses, the other side will say there is no appeal from this decision. So that will be an argument that the Caribbean Court of Justice will have to take right away. The section in the Constitution says that there is no appeal from that decision. Mm-hmm. So whoever loses and wants to go to the Caribbean Court of Justice, the other side is going to say you have no appeal to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Mm-hmm. So that is to be expected.
So it would be a matter of jurisdiction, an argument of jurisdiction first.
It would begin with an argument of jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
interesting.
The road to a declaration could be very rocky in the next couple days.
It could be. So even though we might get a Court of Appeal decision by Sunday or Monday, the case might not be resolved until Wednesday or Friday to finality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the the Caribbean Court of Justice would have to push away everything on its calendar too.
But there's another side to it. There's another side to it.
And then you still have the declaration.
Right.
That's true.
But I think the last time that the parties were waiting on the actual written decision of the court. So I doubt it very much. Let's make a call. Gildarie is going to make a call now. I don't see a declaration being made in the coming new week, based on the timelines that we're seeing.
Well, Mr. Gildarie, do not be so judgmental on the learned judges in the court. Let them effect their roles and effect it well. Kamal, I have a last question for you, sir. In terms of the parties, so in this case, this private citizen would have taken this motion to the court. And Leonard and Kamal, what has happened here is that the PPP then requested the court to be a part of it, as most of the other stakeholders in these elections. So you have CG, you have PCI, and everybody else has gone there to be represented. Is it unusual, Kamal, would Kamal Ramkarran, an attorney at law in Guyana, see that as a good sign that all parties interested in this process have come together to say they want to have their say in court?
I think that this is such an important case that none of the smaller parties who have come forward to put arguments in want to be left out. They want to be sure that at the end of the day, everything that they believe should be said is said. Now, the PPP has some very big guns. Douglas Mendez, Senior Counsel, Devendra Kisoon, Sanjeev Gandhi, Anil Nandalal. So you could say that, those gentlemen are going to address everything we think possible. But if you want to be certain that everything will be addressed, you might as well go do it yourself.
Correct.
So no stone is left unturned.
Correct. And I wonder, Leonard, if Mr. Devendra Kisoon will be told he's not in the country. Or
I don't. Oh my goodness, that's one. Let's see what happens.
there might be an objection to him filing anything because he's supposed to have been he is deemed to be having voted and not having voted as well. Anyway.
Devendra, my friend, he better walk with his passport. But you know, one of the things, Yog, and just to repeat what was said a little earlier, one of the good things is that the court has sought to put into place a half-an-hour time limit on arguments. That is because of the time that the court recognizes the importance of this case. I'm reading it like that. So
and oral arguments, you mean?
Right. Oral arguments and half an hour. You have half an hour to get it overdone, and let's move on. So that's a very good thing.
Mm-hmm. Any comments there, Kamal? Do you see that might be stretched in any way by any one of the parties? I mean, the matter, as you took pains to explain last night, it's straightforward. It's narrow.
I think that you can write your submissions and put what you want to say in writing, and what you say in person just needs to be a summary or to answer any questions that the court has. And by 11 tomorrow, the court should have read everything that was put forward, and the court should be aware of where the case is going. And all of the parties should be aware of what the strengths and weaknesses are of their respective cases. So you don't need longer than half an hour at most. But this is a small case. This is not a lot of issues. It's a single issue, whether you could go there or not. So half an hour to 45 minutes would probably have been the maximum that the party might have wanted to speak to summarize his own strong points and the other side's weak points. I think half an hour is very reasonable.
Is there any reason why the chance is not part of this case? Do we know? Did she recuse herself?
I wouldn't be able to say, but it might be because she has certain duties in terms of putting the oath of office during a presidency. I can't say. That would be speculation on my part. I don't know.
What we do know is Justice Bassington Reynolds, Justice Rishi Prasad, and Justice Don Gregory Barnes. I think the last two are the ones who would have sat in the case with the 33 case, the famous 33 case. I think
this is the same panel that did the Yulita Moore case a few months ago. Yulita Moore was after elections, so it would have sometime in March.
It's going to be interesting. Let us see how this goes. I think one of the things, and I'm not expecting the counsel to comment on it if he wants, so yes. I think it is, we're going to see whether our courts are above board in terms of the way that they rule and following logics. And that is me being very cavalier in my statements. Over to you, Yog. I think Yog was disappeared. So, Counsel Kamal, I want to ask you. So, you're a little heartened by this entire developments in the terms of not only the timeline, but the speed in which the court would have said tomorrow 7, you should submit all those documents, and then 11 we meet again, and you have half an hour.
I'm heartened by the timeline, and I'm also heartened by the fact that the court did not allow counsel to sidetrack it in any way or delay it in any way. The court would come to the parties and said, this is what we will be doing. The court is not asking, oh, what do you want to do? And what the court said, this is what is going to be happening. So the court didn't wait for anybody to try to delay or anything. Timelines were put forward right away. So I think it is a very good sign that things are moving quickly. And
yes.
Matt is being treated with seriousness, which it deserves to be treated with.
Yes. Any other comments, Counsel? Because I know that you're a very busy man.
No other comments.
I thank you very much as always, Counsel. It has been a pleasure. And of course, we want to seek your counsel again in the coming days as we watch this case very closely. It is the biggest case in Guyana at the moment, and we would want to have some opinions as to how we're going forward with it. So thank you very much, and have a pleasant rest of the day.
Thanks for having me, Leonard.
Thank you,
Take care.
Thank you. So in the meantime, if you're now joining us, it is elections COVID-19 watch as always, and we are paying very close attention to a court case that has developed in in Guyana. It was filed yesterday. The motion was filed in the appeal court to stop Keith Lowenfield, the chief elections officer, from submitting his report to the GCOM chair, the Guyana Elections Commission chair, Justice retired Claudette Singh, so they could go ahead and move towards national declaration for a presidency, for seat allocations, and for the swearing of a new president. And that case today came up at 1:30 at Appeals Court in Kingston. And there sitting was Justice Bassington Reynolds, Justice Rishi Prasad, and Justice Don Gregory Barnes. And the case, all parties have been given until 7 o'clock tomorrow to submit their responses to the case. And then there's going to be oral arguments at 11. It's going to start at 11 sharp, and each party would have half an hour to do so. And immediately after that, the court says it will give its decision or the date when it will announce the decision. Yog, you disappeared for a little while. Welcome back. Thank you. Mr. Kamal has made it very clear, counsel, that he is heartened by the timelines as set by the court. They're obviously recognizing the importance of this case, that all Guyana is watching, everybody's watching this case here, and they want to get it over with and done. But we've also looked at the possibilities that there may be an appeal to the Caribbean Court of Justice, because that way is possibly open to. So maybe very quickly before we move on to other things, some of your thoughts, Yog. Your mic, Yog. So in the meantime, while Yog is getting...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sorry for that. Our apologies. Go ahead, Yog. You would have heard what I said?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Yog. Go ahead. So we seem to be having some technical difficulties with Yog there. If you're now joining us, Elections COVID-19 Watch. In the meantime, while we're getting that fixed, we are going to remind you that there was that case at 1:30 today. It's been adjourned for 11 tomorrow for arguments. Each party are going to have, each political party with their lawyers are going to have half an hour to make their arguments, and then the court is going to make an announcement on the decision. In the meantime, Yog, before we move on, some thoughts before we move to the headlines in the Kaichur News.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Leonard. You could hear me well, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. My apologies for that. I got knocked off the connection once again. Look, the truth is that we have another delay in the process. But Leonard, let me be very, very open and very clear. President David Granger, Mr. David Granger, months ago said he cannot interfere with GCOM and he cannot instruct GCOM, right? Everybody remember those statements. He also said that there is a four-step process. Remember those famous words? There is a four-step process. But let me just remind everyone in this country, the same man who said he cannot interfere with GCOM, he sat by and allowed his own party to interfere with GCOM and to delay GCOM. Remember, they didn't achieve anything other than to delay GCOM. That is what they achieved, and obviously that is what they wanted. Now, days ago, a week and a half ago maybe, Mr. David Granger took pains. He stood up and said to this nation, there is a four-step process and you have to let the four-step process finish. Can anybody tell me what step we are in presently? Because obviously we are in 3.99 or something. Because once again, David Granger's own party has now stepped in to delay the process again. So here is the man who said he's not going to interfere with GCOM, but his own party, his own people are delaying the process. Here, your question, I'm sure, will be, what can he do? Because everybody has a right of access to the court, right? I see you itching to ask me that, Leonard. So what can David Granger do? Well, we all know what David Granger can do. He can concede. He knows that he lost these elections. He know, Mr. Granger, you said to this nation that you never looked at your SOPs even. You took the same spreadsheet that was handed to Mingo was handed to you. And you knew, you see everyone agonizing over those spreadsheets. You even saw Roxanne George telling Mingo, go and use the SOPs. And sorry, you didn't want to use the SOPs. You sat back and you allowed yourself to go on that train. Now we have the last part. So you had the step 1 according to Mr. Granger. You had step 2 according to Mr. Granger. You had step 3 according to Mr. Granger. Now step 4 is delayed once again. So the fourth step might have, well, the third step seems to have many parts, more parts than an octopus. More parts than pi, the decimals in pi.
There is an addendum to the former 4-step parts, and that part there now has a 5th one that has A, B, C, D, and E. I'm not sure how this is going to work, but this will put some funny things into it. But Yog, I'm looking at my front page here, Kaichor front page, and we head straight into the headlines: elections declarations on hold, and Kaichor News is screaming it very loudly here. Lowenfield holding Guyana at ransom. Motion filed in appeal court to stop Lowenfield's report to GCOM chair. President Granger, Volder Lawrence clear out public offices. They would have had the information. And I think this is one that is deeply worrying, Yog. 5 teachers among 12 who tested positive for COVID-19. There is a statement coming out from the Ministry of Education today which says that in Moruca, which is in Region 1, and that's an area that is near to Venezuela, they have 11 teachers has been tested positive for COVID-19. The authorities there, I think the regional health officers, calling for what they have termed community lockdown for 2 weeks. They are going to close all schools in that sub-district area, schools that were reopened for the exams, grade 6, CSEC, CAPE. And the Ministry of Education says they're seeking alternative methods of engagements with the students so they could still go ahead and write the exam. I think a lot of parents are going to be a little upset with that. That region is under stress, and that region we know is one like Region 9. It is very vulnerable to the crossings of the border, wide open borders, and people being going back and forth. So that is in itself very interesting. And there's this story here that may or may not be related to elections 2020. GPL early this week approved over $500 million, Yog, for the purchase of 8 bucket trucks. They said they want to use those trucks for the maintenance, and they approved that I think on Tuesday. So there are some questions, some eyebrows being lifted there with regards to this purchase that was approved by the Guyana Power and Light. I think they should answer it and say whether they have gone out and advertised for procurement, because GPL, is a state-owned company that has a board of directors and so on, so they handle their own finances. However, in this day and age, when you have more than $500 million going out for the purchase of 8 trucks, I think people are going to be very interested. What kind of trucks? Are they new trucks? Did it go to tender? Those kind of things, and GPL would have they would have to answer for this. So that's an interesting thing.
Well, Leonard, just if I may, that is an interesting thing indeed, because who is the chairman of GPL? I mean, the public needs to know GPL's board chairman is a political appointee. GPL's board, the entire board of GPL is put together by the government. So this, we cannot disguise it. It is political directive, and the politicians must be held responsible. I would also like to know, Leonard, whether the life of that board of directors didn't expire.
We don't know a lot of stuff. What we do know is that things happen. It seems as if things are happening like the old ways, and nothing has changed. And we have a few executives who believe that the state-owned companies and the coffers and the checkbooks that are signed belong to the mother and the father. I don't know of any other way to put it. It's about time that we call it as it is.
Correct. Correct. And Kaichunyu says it well, ladies and gentlemen, as Guyana waited, and Leonard read it, but let me repeat. As Guyana waited in bated breath for the results of the elections 2020, it is business as usual for a few state companies. GPL has approved $600 million in payments for 8 utility trucks. And the payment of that amount has gone to Massey Motors Guyana Limited, which would have come after a local purchase order was issued on January 1, 2020. The state-owned company with its board of directors need to be held responsible here, Leonard, because the board, I'm sure the life of the board of directors could not have been renewed legitimately by an illegitimate government.
And I'm not sure what part of the world, if GPL buys these trucks, do they have to pay taxes on it? Is this a state-owned company? One of the trucks, there's two types of the order, 4 of one, 4 of the other. One is about 63 million, one is 83 million. That's what they say. I'm not sure if this is landed with tax inclusive, whether any taxes were paid. This is a state-owned company. Do they charge taxes? Many questions here.
Yeah, this just shows the blatant disregard that people have for this country, for its finances, and for what is happening in these election processes, Leonard. This is a clear indication of the disregard people had.
Well, the time, it's this week. There is supposed to be an elections declarations. At least on Tuesday we were told that. So when you decide to pay it, there are going to be questions that's going to be asked if there's a coincidence or whether it's business as usual. GPL would have to answer because they would have paid, according to what we saw, 10%, I think 30% up front, 60% on the arrival of the trucks, and then another 10%, 10% within a month after it would have been delivered to GPL. So they would have to say the conditions and so on, and more importantly to us, to the people of Guyana, whether it was indeed advertised. But let us get down right back to business, Yog. It is elections COVID-19 watch. We want to hear from our people. COVID-19, it's something that's going to be wrong for a little while. Numbers are up in Brazil. I know that Dr. Rupert Roopnarayan, there is a gentleman here that is over there who's been stuck with his wife, newborn baby in Brazil, and he's been telling us of the horrendous situation. I think in one day 1,200 persons died in Brazil there. So we have to pay very close attention to that. So today, Dr. Yog and myself would want to open the lines as quickly as possible. We are going to move towards that. It is 226-7453. Make your answers short and snappy, to the point. Elections, COVID-19, we want to hear from you what is happening in your community. Of course, with that development of the court case that is before the Court of Appeal at the moment, some thoughts on that. Let's keep our conversation civil as always. If you're going to come onto our Facebook and make comments, let it be productive in a sense, meaning let us keep it respectful. Let us keep it in tone that we are developing this country, want to move it to the next level. We're dealing with mature people here. We are being monitored by the Guyana National Broadcasting Authority. In addition to that, management has made it very clear that we have to pay attention to this. If you come on and you make comments that is not in keeping with what we believe free and fair comments, we are going to delete you. We delete the comment and then maybe even block you too. So let's just be very careful with that. Yog, any comments before we head to the lines?
Well, other than to remind everybody that the court has thankfully decided that it will continue its operation through the weekend. And so its operations would go into tonight, go into tomorrow. They are going to be receiving submissions. The last submissions would have been probably at 7 tomorrow morning. And, you know, Leonard, I want to remind everybody that tonight you and I will be opening room 592 to have further discussions on what is happening today and, of course, what we expect tomorrow.
Absolutely, the Yog. And of course, we have our WhatsApp number, 6222222. You could send us your text there. And of course, you could text us normally on that number there. Do not call us on that. We don't answer that. It's 226-7453. I think already there's a call online. Yes, good day, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Mr. Leonard. Good afternoon, Dr. Yog.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I am so disturbed and upset. It is the worst president we ever see in Guyana history, David Arthur Granger. The worst, very worst. And I feel shame to be a GDF officer, and he was a GDF officer. I feel shame from him. So very, very shame to know he is sitting back and say he never see the SOP.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what they try, we have patience. We have patience. We passed this through in the 70s, the 80s, and we can continue 2 or 3 days more. Wouldn't bother. But I hope that keep Lowenfield and Mingo go to jail, or if not, we can hold the PPP foot to the fire for this nonsense that is going on. If they don't do something, we can take the streets.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take the streets, come. Y'all have a good afternoon, sir. Thanks.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
caller. So that's one caller there who's been paying attention to what is happening. There's another caller in line too? Yes. Okay. So you could also send us text on 6222222. I think already, Yog, there are many other texts that's been coming in. Hello, the private citizen have a right to file her court. Let me see. Granger cannot concede. He has to see the process to the end. Granger didn't put himself in office, so he has to show his supporters on all Guyana that the claims and concerns were addressed. That's somebody, obviously a coalition supporter. Gentlemen, GPL doesn't have a legal board of directors. How can they do sole sourcing? GPL must have to charge VAT and pay as well. Our GPL bill is evidence. Well, we are investigating that purchase of over $500 million for 8 trucks. GPL must know that they're not above the law, and that anything that you do, it will come to light, and the people are paying attention. What are the implications of Massey being connected with illicit deals and possible kickbacks? We don't know whether this is an illicit deal. I think it could be that it was properly advertised, and that in the necessary media, and not a three-court system for something of this magnitude. This is over $500 million, almost $600 million, Yog. So we don't know whether it's an illicit deal. We don't know whether there's a kickback. What we do know is that 8 trucks cost $587 million, and therefore that is going to raise a red flag in reporters' mind, in the minds of the people in the media. Guyana election is a movie. We're in the season 5. Not sure how much more seasons to go. Interesting. People are finding humor, and it is good that we smile, but there is a serious message in that by the person that would have text. My question to you guys: do you have any confidence in the appeal court Yog, this was something that was posed. I know that we couldn't ask our good counsel directly, and we did try to answer it. But we did see some question marks being raised by the people. It is a democratic society, and the courts are there. The courts are not all the time going to rule in one favor or the other. They are going to do what it takes. That's the very nature of court and what happens in democracy. But it is this self-same court that took a decision on the 33, and hence it went straight all the way to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Maybe you would want to revisit that, Yog.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. I mean, the right of courts is clearly there for any citizen to carry any petitions they want, and the court will be dealing with it. And the court, we cannot say that we do not have, or we should not say that we do not have confidence in the Court of Appeal. The learned justices there, they speak based on what arguments is presented to them and what research is done in law. Mr. Ramkarran earlier would have shared with us his views as to what the processes are and what the implications of those things are, and we'll continue some discussions on that tonight. With regards to one of the earlier points, the person who sent the notice said Mr. Granger has a right to wait and do all of this. I would want to respond, yes, Mr. Granger has his rights, but a majority of the electorate of this country has rights as well. No one must be allowed to exercise their freedoms and their rights while destroying the rights and freedoms of any other person. And so Mr. Granger knows he lost and he must concede. If he concedes, it puts an end to all of this speculation. It puts an end to every bit of nonsense you see going on. But, Leonard, I would not be surprised if tomorrow morning Kaiju News is going to show somebody else is buying something somewhere. I mean, you're spending what? $360,000 for a truck at an average here? That's US dollars.
And one is 83 million too, so there's about what, $400 million?
Exactly. And you would need to ask questions. Whether these trucks are brand new, whether they're retrofitted, whether they would come here and their work has to be done on them. All of those questions need to be asked, and of course, whether there was competitive bidding.
Well, we will be asking those questions. Yes, some very pertinent questions there, Yog. Very pertinent, very important.
Correct. But to come back to the core, a lot of persons have expressed their concerns. I think Kamal Ramkarran stated it extremely well. In answer to even your question and my question, Leonard, as to the confidence in the courts and whether, it is the same court that had a decision for the 33 over 34. We must remember that it was a majority decision. It was not a unanimous decision, right? It was a majority decision. You had one dissenting judge. And you know what? That's why there's an appeal process. But, Leonard, the truth is that, I would be happy to tell Mr. Granger and his entire camp, take whatever matters you got to take. The court allows you to file an election petition. The laws allow you to file an election petition. Let us have a declaration. What are you guys scared of? You said you won these elections on March 3rd and March 4th and March 8th and March 13th. You said you won these elections, gentlemen. What are you scared of? Let Madam Claudette Singh make her declaration. They're obviously very scared and they're going to throw up everything you can think of, Leonard. But here is what I wish to remind everyone. This group of politicians, they are continuing to earn tax-free salaries, allowances, benefits, incentives. They continue to earn it all. They should be ashamed, and if they stay there as a squatter on the Guyanese property, as a squatter government, they should at least be decent enough to refuse to take any of our taxpayers' money, because we need that money to feed our children.
Mm-hmm. So when will it all end, guys? Does all things happen in elections? As somebody else expressing frustration, there's another call in line. Good afternoon, caller. You in the air?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
You guys have been such a long time a part of my shift as a security that I look forward to you joining me every day. I must say that one of the things, to answer the question popped out and was in the paper, is there's something called the spiritual, and there's also something called transition understanding by boards and directors. As long as there's an election period in a state-owned company, everybody knows you give yourself at least 3 months before and 3 months after, whether the incumbent coming in back or not, and hold off on major decisions. And 600 million is major decisions, because you do not know who is coming, what is coming, and it's something that every board of directors know. In transition, you hold off on major decisions, and just like the government, you use pay salaries and so on and so forth. So to answer that question, GPL certainly acted outside the spirit of the law. When it comes to GCOM, I must make a comment on Mr. Lowenfield. One of the things that he should have known, that he should have been doing his job until this case had filed. Not getting a notice. A notice doesn't mean that he should have stopped his work. And that, to me, is a question that he needs to answer. Probably not to me, but to somebody, because he needed to work up to the last moment. He's working for Mrs. Sladder Singh, who is the chairman. Mm-hmm. As it relates to all the tactics, I don't want to say anything negative about the court, because I like the law. And I believe that this is the protest, one of the estates at work, which is the law. And the court is probably, for me, in this whole period, with the exception of the media, or that's just to clarify that some of the media that have exemplary shown democracy at work, and in the way that they work and they took conditions to the timeline. I must say, lastly, I am surprised at what is going on in Region 1. And one of the questions I keep asking myself, how do I know if anybody on this road here was in Maruka and is back in town now? Who is checking these things? Who know who went into Maruka between this time and now? According to Mr. Shamdev Prasad, Chief Medical Officer, they got 100% rate. With this note, they got 100%. If that one is 2, 5 is 10. So somebody in the board, somebody in this, we call it task force, need to start doing more than contact tracing. I probably think they need to take an example from Borby and start checking people as they come in and checking people as they go out. And if you didn't went here before, something has to be done, because we don't know who coming out of the bush and going in the bush, and this is something that we got to take seriously in Georgetown, because we are wide and open and people are just coming and going. We lock our borders, but the thing they're inside here, and people just moving freely. Thank you once again, and I agree with the caller yesterday. I know that there are more things that will be there in the future after this whole fiasco is finished. And this program and for Room 592 is very beneficial, not just for pointing out people's faults, but holding any person, whether government, state-owned company, private sector, feet to the fire and make sure that this country runs as it should. And I agree with the caller yesterday, Mr. Yog run from it. He should become an advisor, if not to the President, Minister of Finance or somebody. Have a good day. Let's be responsible here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, with regards to GPL, I think the point, let me even go a little further. There's a reason for procurement, not only to spread the money around, not having one company, to allow that fair practice. You put in, everybody put in the specs and the best conditions with the prices, and so would be the one that is going to win. We don't know whether this thing could have been had for 25 million or 10 million. We don't know a lot of stuff. So that's why there should be value for money at all stages of the procurement process. And that's why there are special departments. The Ministry of Health has it. I think there's a procurement board now. There's a procurement commission. So if you disagree with something, it is supposed to take your complaint, your appeal, and act on it, and they have acted on it in the past. So one of the big things that I must point out to you is that we as taxpayers, we should be interested in whether we get value for the money. If you're spending your money, you would want to know that if you're buying a Toyota car, maybe an Allion or a Premio, and you're not paying $6 million, why would you pay $6 million for it when you could get it for $3 million? It means that somebody getting a raise somewhere along the line. Why would you pay $83 million for one, $63 million for one? Are we paying the right amount? Is this the right price? Is it a competitive price? We don't know a lot of stuff. What we do know is on Tuesday, more than almost $600 million, the final payments were being approved by GPL. And this, the decision to, the order for that was given in January. So some questions here. Over to you, Yog, maybe some other things that the gentleman.
And the questions has to be asked of the CEO. The ultimate responsibility to sign off on those payments is with the CEO. He can listen to his board. He can remind the board of his roles and responsibilities, especially if the board has not been renewed. But the CEO will have to answer as well. And Leonard, the other aspect of some of these things that we have to look at is from the perspective of you are spending. Remember, this GPL is completely state-owned. One can argue that GPL's allocations and budgetary management is very different from the rest of the country because it is a semi-autonomous body, meaning that it is a company, but the board of directors are appointed by the government, so it is not necessarily independent of the government. It has been run down the same way Gaisuko has been run down because politicians get involved and direct them what to do and direct them where their priorities has to be. Now, Leonard, they're spending, how much you said? 600 million, approximately 600 million on buying 8 trucks. And here's what. There are no drugs, no pharmaceuticals in the hospitals. There are no pharmaceuticals, no drugs in the outlying hospitals. You go to Skellen Hospital, you'd be lucky if you leave there with a Panadol. So we have a serious problem with how we are using funds in this country. And this shows a real cavalier attitude to what is priority in these COVID times, Leonard. The same GPL that refuses to lower its electricity rates, notwithstanding the fact that fuel prices had come down. That same GPL has taken $600 million to go buy 8 trucks now. Not 6 months from now, but now. You know, these things are probably indescribable, but you know, you have to question people's humaneness at times like this, Leonard. Not just a matter of management and money, but their humaneness.
And we could start looking at the other boards, some of the excesses, the abuses that we've seen, and some questionable decisions. So it might be interesting to look at what some of the other boards would have done leading up to elections and just around this period. There's a text coming in here now. My view is that the reason that the 2 judges said that 33 is not a majority of 65, well, was to buy time, and it did. That's exactly the purpose. This is what they hope to achieve again. I presume they know what they're talking there. Good day, you on to the air.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I just want to make a suggestion. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. You're hearing me.
Yeah. I think we should scrap GCOM. This is my thought and my belief. The same money you pay GCOM, you bring people from outside United Nations, and they do the election, and when they finish. No, you pay GCOM 8 to 10 to $15 billion. Right? If you're going to pick people, put a GCOM, it might be for one side like a billion, and we can get a scenario going on for years and years, and it will never stop. And I tell, look, some people call me from overseas, and they start to molest me. I feel so ashamed that I live in Guyana, and I'm a Guyanese. Very, very ashamed. The man says soon if you got this incumbent government in power, Y'all gonna have to wear green all over. All the school children have to wear green. That this is my contribution, and we got here wolves in sheep clothing inside this place here. This is blatant I pass to the people in this country where they're going on with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay Caller. Yog, when it comes to this case here, I think it was raised a little earlier that we may not see, if a decision is given on Tuesday, let zone run into it. There could be an appeal before the Caribbean Court of Justice. That has not been locked yet. I think people say, don't put ideas in other people's head because they want to get this over with and done. But we have to look at the entire affair, this entire court case, the development of elections 2020, and look at the various aspects and see what is going to happen, because this thing has had so many twists back and forth. And while the Court of Appeal seemed to be very mindful of the timeline and the number of days that this thing has been dragging on, it's 109 days now since March the 2nd elections. By anything, that is almost be going on to 4 months now. It's not something that we should be very happy about. This is really frustrating. We've lost an entire year because we were fighting in the courts. We've lost 3 months because elections has caused us not to have a president in place, not to have a government in place, not to have a national parliament in place. So laws can be passed. There's so many things. We can't have a budget maybe as early as we want. This is half a year. We're heading into half a year now. June is going to be in the next couple of days. So we have really dropped the ball, really dropped the ball.
And Leonard, we got to remember, this nation needs to remember a few things. We must document these things and take them to posterity. Do you remember, as Mr. Alim Ali sent in this note, and let me remind viewers and listeners, do you remember that there was a time, 2-3 weeks, maybe about 5 weeks ago, when no one could have found Mr. Lowenfield and so forth to serve them? You remember? Mr. Lowenfield could not have been found. Nobody knew where he was. Mr. Mingo could not be found. But here, Mr. Lowenfield was conveniently available to be given a notice of an intent to file. Not a filing, not an injunction. There's nothing to stop GCOM. There's no injunction in place. But he has received a notice to file. So the same man who was missing a couple of weeks ago is now obviously, and I think it was Timothy Jonas who said that it is clear that GCOM is taking the side of APNU AFC, and he said it quite openly. And with each passing day, one has to wonder as to that statement. And while we still want to hold Madam Claudette Singh as distinct, above and beyond such classification, but Leonard, Madam Claudette Singh has to know what's going on below her feet. She is standing on a ground that is shaking, and if the ground continues to shake, it's obviously upsetting her too.
Well, let us see what happened. Guess how much of one of those, well, I shouldn't be saying it. Let me say it. One of those $63 million truck, guess how much it is? Somebody
tell us.
Somebody sent me something here, then this is a 2017 model for about $15 million. I ain't gonna go there anymore. That's a story for another day. Let's see how it develops. I hope that GPL is listening, or somebody alert them and let them come out with a statement. I would love to see a defense of this and how they arrived at the smaller version for 63 million and then the bigger one for 83 million. I think the board should be fired for this if they can't justify it. And management too should be sanctioned. Maybe somebody has to be fired. Some heads need to roll. But there's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, Mr. Gildarie and Dr. Yog.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes.
Here now. I'm from Borby's, Bat.
But yes,
I would like to know which lawyer representing the PPP in this case.
It's Douglas Mendes.
And he alone?
Well, he has orders with him, but he's the prime. He's the one in the forefront. The same gentleman who would have represented them to the CCJ and represent. Yes.
What happened? The other one from Trinidad represent PNC.
Represents the applicant. The applicant. APNO FC. Well, not APNO FC. It's the applicant.
Well, how are we stands with this case? Like to you?
Well, we can answer you off the phone. You can probably hang up and we can remind everybody what happened today, right?
So what would hang up and
Yes, and you can listen. We'll summarize what happened today for everyone's sake.
All right, good. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
thank you very much. We don't know where the court case is going to lead. I think what the gentleman is asking, we could tell you what transpired today. So this is elections and COVID-19 watch. It is June the 19th, 2020, and let us tell you what transpired in court today. So the court it convened, and there were three judges for the appeal court, Justice Rishi Prasad, Don Gregory Barnes, and Bassington Reynolds. And they have decided, it was decided that all parties have until 7 a.m. tomorrow to submit their responses to the case, and they have half an hour each starting from 11 a.m. So court reconvenes at 11 a.m. tomorrow, and they have half an hour each to make their oral submissions, arguments. I think after that, the court, at the end of that process, whenever it ends tomorrow, the court is now going to say, well, we are going to render our decision on such and such a date. We expect it could happen as early as Sunday. As to what they're going to rule, we don't know. Maybe we could hazard a guess. But at this point in time, that's what we could tell you with regards to that. So the whole world is going to be tuning in tomorrow at 11 a.m. At the Court of Appeals, and let's hope that we have a better audio feed today. Today was horrendous, and it's a shame at this point in time, as of June the 19th, 2020, with so much technology, that somebody can't even find a way of doing a Zoom, maybe a recording, a video recording. Why, Yog, as we on that, let me ask you, before we take any calls, why would the judge or why would the court not want to have or at least one live feed, maybe video, of a case that is as important as this? Could you give me any explanation? I can't find anything in my mind that is going to persuade me.
Well, historically, the courts have been a little hesitant to have airing of these things, broadcasts of them. But given COVID-19, the court is forced to have the entire hearing done online. I don't really find it as anything, because remember, Leonard, one of the things that we gotta keep in mind, all of the persons presenting themselves, it's virtual. They're not necessarily in a particular room. Many of them are connected online. And so for them to send out a video feed would also mean that everything would have to be shared. I would not read too much into it. I would just say it's good that we are getting an audio feed, because while it would be nice to see everything at this stage, maybe Leonard. But here is the bigger question: if you couldn't get a good audio feed, what would have happened to a video and audio feed? You would have got nothing.
No. What they did, I think they gave it to one of the media house, and they would have probably used the phone attached to some speaker box or something. It's not that you're taking a feed from the speaker box, you're putting your phone next to the speaker box, and then all the other media house are forced to use that particular bat feed to do their transmission. And so at some point in time, I said, what am I listening to? It was really terrible, and it is bad because the court, I think, they have internet there. It doesn't doing a live feed. Everybody could do that, and these things are very simple. For you to do that when the whole world is watching or want to hear, I can't understand that the judges would be sitting there and allowing this to happen. They should be very much aware that all Guyana. They're interested in what is transpiring there. But to answer that gentleman's question, let us go very quickly and tell you who is representing who here. Eslin David versus Chief Elections Officer Guyana, Chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission. The Guyana Elections Commission and Attorney General of Guyana was heard today at the Court of Appeal. The applicant, Eslin David, was represented by Mayo Robertson. I never heard that name before. John Jeremy, George Scotland, both from Trinidad and Tobago. The Chief Elections Officer was unrepresented by counsel. Chief Elections Officer Lowenfield had no counsel. The chairperson of the Guyana Elections Commission was represented by Kim Kite. The Attorney General Basil Williams appeared in person with Maxwell Edwards. Irfan Ali, president candidate for the People's Progressive Party, and Bar Jagdeo. They were joined and added as respondents. They were represented by Douglas Mendes, Senior Counsel, Mohabir Anandlal, Sanjeev Dattadin, and Devendra Kisoon. They have a big team there. Anog and GLP were also joined as respondents and represented by Ralph Ramkarran and Timothy Jonas. So Mr. Jonas is part of this now, and Ralph was there too. TCI and Change Guyana were also joined and represented by Kashir Khan. All lawyers were ordered to file and serve their respective affidavits and written submissions on or before 6 a.m. We did say 7. I think it's 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. The case is adjourned for oral hearing of submissions at 11 a.m. tomorrow. The court directed that each lead counsel be permitted 30 minutes to present their oral submissions in addition to their written submissions. And it's basically what we would have said a little earlier. So that's it in a nutshell. So
I just want to share this with you, Leonard. One of the other reasons we got to remember, let's take a criminal case or a civil, maybe not civil, but criminal case and things like that. Remember, a person is innocent until proven guilty. And so when if courts were to adopt this thing of sharing audio feeds and stuff like that, you might as well be broadcasting something that you ought not to, because the public perception and judgment is only enshrined within the hands of the judges there, and not in the public. So there are a lot of arguments there, but you must remember, I think, I don't know if the younger generation would know. Remember that famous O.J. Simpson case that was both audio and video, and it fascinated the world because it seemed like a serial movie. I think the Guyana elections beat that case, even though we have not been on air or on television.
But Yoga, and we come back to it again. I can't understand. There's absolutely no reason in this world that we should hide anything. We don't have anything to hide, and that I forget the fact that we have technology. As judges, as courts, those things are public hearings. And while because of COVID-19, you might be limited in the number of persons, or you might be holding it via Zoom. Why on earth would you not want to have this thing aired live so we could have it on our records, we could view it back? It's so very easy for lawyers and everybody. Tonight, if this thing is heard tomorrow, the judge could go back and replay it and see what would have taken, instead of waiting somebody write something and give it to them. I'm not sure. I still simply can't wrap my head around that. But there was 2 statements that is coming in here. I agree with your previous caller. GCOM needs to be dismantled. And Yoga, and this is something for you too. They want you to head the local COVID-19 task force, and they're saying that if it's given to you, whether you would accept. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. Good afternoon, caller. You're in the air.
Hi, President. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
First thing, my first thing is that I basically do not trust two of those judges, and this is coming from my heart, based on the past cases and the mistakes that they make, but I'm just hoping for the best. Just what I saw in Kaito News today about Granger and Vardaland making room for the next administration, that is a good thing, but I am disappointed in Mr. Granger. Why I'm disappointed in that man is that I had so much respect for him as a leader. I admire him as a leader. I look up to him as a leader. My kids look up to him as a leader. And here it is that this man have an opportunity to prove to the world that he's a man of integrity and honesty as he said he is. Here it is. And he disappoints everybody. I can tell you that Mr. Granger was respected by world leaders, but that has changed. That has changed. Why? Because he's trying to make Harmon, and more so Harmon, into this thing, you know. And the thing is, Harmon is a dual citizen. He's not a bloody Guyanese, excuse my word. Harmon needs to get the hell out of this country and stop trying to destroy this nation. Why his name is still on the list and he's a dual citizen and he lied to this nation, but he gave it up. And we all know the truth about that. Come on, man.
Go
Come on. These people are holding up this country because of their greed. Because of their greed, James Bond went and looked for that woman to do that that thing that is before the court right now and give her some money. These people feel that Guyanese don't know what they're doing in this country. They feel people stupid or something.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other point, caller?
And Mr. Longfield should be jailed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. Very passionate. Guyanese should sue GCOM for the mental, physical, and psychological distress they are putting us through with their incompetence and for their barefaced attitude of not caring and respecting the laws. Also for taking a political or party side. This is coming from one of the viewers, listeners. Yog?
This is, the caller has expressed a lot of emotions there. I want to throw something at you and the viewers and listeners, Leonard. I am extremely worried as to some of the approaches of the PPP as well. As you know, I have said to everybody, I don't need to explain myself, but you know, I'm offering this. I'm independent. I'm not speaking on behalf of any political party. But Leonard, I wonder why the PPP has not been more proactive in foreseeing some of these shenanigans and take preemptive action. In addition, here is a thought. Why shouldn't or why hasn't the people on the east coast of Demerara, and I'm calling on them now, I'm calling on the people of the east coast of Demerara. If you are in an area in which GCOM, in which APNU AFC is saying that your box shouldn't be counted and that your vote shouldn't be counted, you should be mounting a legal challenge to force GCOM to ensure that your vote is counted. It cannot be one-sided. It cannot be APNU AFC is going to make allegations and have the entire country at standstill and have the courts going through the mill and have Madam Claudette Singh have her entire life and professionalism in question by everybody because APNU AFC felt that you didn't vote. Well, you should go take preemptive action. Go there, take some action at the court to get GCOM to respect your rights and your ballot. Because obviously some people don't want your ballots to be counted. So this thing, all the shenanigans, Leonard, I would like to think that the PPP now must stop being reactive and start being proactive, think things through. And if you know Granger is playing a waiting game to get 2 days more in office, it gives you 2 days to take preemptive action. It gives you 2 days to galvanize yourself and think. I'm tired of seeing, the defensive position. I know that you have to defend the position, but where are the people? Where are the people of the 41 boxes, and why haven't they been put together to file an action?
Well, it's a part of the education process. I think people are now beginning to wake up and see how many powers that they have, not only by the votes, but they have as citizens. And here we have something coming in from the officials in Region 1, Yog, and it's saying in the case of Maruca, which is a part of Region 1, one of the main areas, sub-region in Region 1, that borders with Venezuela. In the case of Maruca, their vulnerability was not from the Venezuelans. It's from villagers, coastlanders who are coming in and out. The 12 new cases brings to the total 23 cases for Maruca. The concentration of the cases is within a small radius of 2 miles in Santa Rosa, Maruca. The Santa Rosa Village Council has placed the village on a lockdown from tomorrow. No boats will be allowed in and out from Charity to run during this period also. So that is something that we'd have to pay attention to, because if it is, Yog, I'm really, really worried. The Amerindian areas, if you look at the neighboring Venezuela, the indigenous peoples are taking a beating there per capita compared to the rest of the places in Brazil. They have a high number of villagers dying, indigenous people dying. There was even an activist which I think made the news in a big way, very well known for his protection of the forests and so on, who's died. He was in hospital, people are monitoring, and he's died. So they have a problem there. And if you see it in Region 1, an entire area, Santa Rosa and Maruca area, that Maruca area there, they are going on a 2 weeks lockdown. So while this is all happening, we have to pay attention there. Yog, tonight as we come down, we would have wanted to go a little longer, but we prepared ourselves for this evening. Room 592, because we have to continuously relook, analyze what would have transpired in the courts today. What do we expect on room 592 this evening?
Well, I certainly would like to ask, our guests this evening as to what's next. I mean, Leonard, I asked Mr. Ram, you and we asked Mr. Ram, we asked Mr. Kamal Ramkarran last night. And, I'm getting to this stage where now we're looking at obviously nobody is thinking ahead. Everybody believes, and everybody continues to believe, that Mr. Granger will do what is right, that Mr. Granger will do this. Mr. Granger said 4-step process. Mr. Granger said he's going to follow GCOM. Nobody has seen and realized that Mr. Granger is himself the problem, because he has come out all of a sudden and opened an umbrella above Harman. He has come out all of a sudden and embraced everything, while saying he doesn't even care about SOPs, or he doesn't care about decency and honesty and integrity. Because the next elections, suppose the next government say, well, you know what, we're not going to come out from office no matter who says what. Suppose the next GCOM decided to rig in an even worse way than now. Suppose Mr. Lowenfield version 2 or 3 or 10 or whatever it is continues to hold this country at ransom. What do we do as a people then? So some of those are some of the questions I want to ensure we ask Mr. Datadin tonight, and we are looking to have a good panel set up that can have this and really prepare us for what to expect over this weekend, Leonard.
Thank you very much, dear. And as we come to wrap up time with the program, I want to say thank you very much, and let me very quickly bring you a wrap up as to what would have happened in the court. There was an application filed, a motion rather, in the appeals court to stop Keith Lowenfield, the chief elections officer, from submitting his report to the GCOM chair, so the way would have been paved for a president to be sworn in. The court case came up today, and the Court of Appeal has given the respondents the latest tomorrow, 6 a.m., to submit online their responses to the court case, and they are at 11 o'clock tomorrow. They've been given half an hour each to make their oral arguments or presentations before three judges at the Court of Appeal, Brassington Reynolds, Don Gregory Byrne, and Rishi Prasad, the three judges there. And so after that, the court is going to, so that's the emergency session. And after that, the court is going to announce when it's going to render its decision. So we are going to continue to bring that tonight. Room 592, we are going to bring you updates, analysis as to what would have transpired today. We're going to speak in with Attorney at Law Sanjeev Dattadin and others. So thank you for joining us during Elections COVID-19 Watch. Myself, Leonard Gildarie, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Thank you to our viewers, listeners across this wonderful country of ours. Have a heart. Pray for this country. And of course, if you've been joining us from overseas, hundreds literally have been joining us from overseas. A good day to you, and thank you for joining us. Be with us this evening again. Kaicho Radio on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course Kaicho News online. You could get us there. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant rest of the afternoon.